Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm Minimalist Machinist on Instagram. This is what you're going to come to when you open Seamly2D for the first time. You could get going and start making a pattern piece on here, but the first thing I recommend that you do is open the sister app to Seamly2D, which is called SeamlyMe, and that is where you're going to be adding your measurements. And the whole reason I use Seamly2D is because of the sister app SeamlyMe and all the other features that are specific to pattern making, with adding seam allowances and preparing for print and things like that. You could use Adobe Illustrator to draw your pattern piece and it would be much easier to draw, in all honesty. You can manipulate points in Illustrator, you can move those, you can change the lengths of those quite easy, you can change curves and things and export to PDF and things like that really easily. However, the good thing about Seamly2D is once you have inputted all your measurements into SeamlyMe and once you've done it in the right way, if you change those measurements at any point in the future, your entire pattern piece will be redrawn to the correct measurements. You don't need to go back in and manipulate any point. It literally just updates it. So if I've got my chest measurement running and I put that back in, I don't need to redraw the drawing. I literally just need to change the centimetre amount of my measurement file and it will update for me. It is a great piece of software. It is open source though, so bear in mind that it's going to be a little bit different to what you've used if you've used drawing programs before. It's mainly based on maths and formulas and things like that. I'll show you as best I can how I use it. I am no expert when it comes to this piece of software. It really is something I've taught myself. First thing we're going to do is open SeamlyMe. I'm going to show you what mine is already filled in, and then we're going to just fill one in together. So this is SeamlyMe, which is a sister app to Seamly2D, and this is basically a database of all your potential measurements that you might need. This is what it looks like when it's kind of filled in. You can see down here we've got relevant measurements to my body. I'm going to show you how to fill that in now. When you come to it, it'll be blank. This is what it'll look like, and it'll tell you what to do. It'll say select new for creation of a measurements file, so you need to make a new one. I'm going to leave these default because my units that I've measured myself in are centimetres. Some of the fitting books use inches as their measurements, but I'll show you some nifty ways that I've managed to use both units. I always start with my known values because they're the easiest. It'll be things like bust, waist, hip, abdomen, like things like that. When you click add known, it will take you to this, and this is just a list of potential measurements from your body that you might need. I'm going to start with my basic ones, and then I'm not going to show you all of them inputted because it will take forever. First thing is I'm going to add my bust circumference. They're in different sections, so if you see, A section is height, B is widths, indentations, hands, foot, everything like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is bust circumference, and that's G4, so just keep an eye on this number here, because once you come over to this, which is your measurements diagram, it shows you on the diagram which exact measurement that we're going to add, and it gives you a bit of a guide of which one it's going to be, and that one is number 4 there, and that's my full bust. So it's good to kind of refer back to that number, to this number, and to this number underneath. Gives you an idea of whether you're adding the right one, and you can see it once you go back to here, so you just click OK on that, open the measurements diagram so you can see it at the same time. So we're adding bust circ. This is just a short name for the measurement that you're adding, and this is what we're going to type in, or what's going to be double clicked to give us our value back in Seamly2D. Gives us a bit of an idea of what it is. This is the full name of it, bust circumference. This is our value that we're going to add ourselves, and this formula, you don't need to worry about any of these but this kind of column. To add your bust circumference, you go down to your formula bar here and you just input whatever it is. So my full bust is 109, and that's centimetres. You can click back between inches, millimetres and centimetres down here. Gives you an inch value, calculated value, an idea of what your inches are versus your centimetres. That's quite useful. Okay, and then you can save it. I just use my initials, RGB, and then the month and year. I did say that you could update the measurements at any point in this file and it will update your pattern piece automatically. That's still correct. I do like to sometimes keep my files separate depending if it's been, say, 6 months since I've last measured. I like to duplicate up my file and change those, and just so I have something to compare back to. So basically now you just need to go through and add all your known measurements. So you just keep choosing add known, finding the one that you're working with and add it. So waist circumference, I'll do that quickly. That's G7. Yep, that's the one I want. That's bang on my waist. It's G7 here. I'm going to OK that and add that. I think it was 95 last I did. Okay, save that. You don't have to save after each one. It's just the process I do. I just don't like to lose things. Now, a nifty thing actually I'll show you while I'm here is that if I know my waist circumference and I know my waist front arc, let's do that one. Waist, circumference and arcs are all in the same bit. You'll see that circ at the end of the word here Again, you can just double check against the measurement that you want to add. So I want my waist arc F front. There's a waist arc back as well, B here. So if I add my waist arc front, I know what that is, I think. Let me have a look. Yep, 57. I'm going to add that and save. If I wanted my waist arc back now, waist arc back 31, yeah, that's right. Because I know my waist circumference and I know my waist arc front, it uses a formula based on those two numbers that I've inputted to create my waist arc back number, and that will automatically update if I change my circumference or waist arc front. And that's a really nice way of using SeamlyMe, and there's a few different ones like that, mainly partial measurements that get worked out based on your full measurements, so that's really useful. I'll show you now how I get around the inches centimeters thing, which is to add a custom value, and that pops up here. Just need to call it whatever you want to do it. I call it inch because I'm going to add 2.54 as my value, and then I use that to refer back to Seamly2D to make guidelines and things. So it'll say square out from C 4 inches, so I just do 4 times this inch, and then I know it's 4 inches. The other thing I do is add, say, a 1/16 or 3/8 as different ones here, and it just saves thinking time. You can just double click those instead of having to work out what it should be in centimeters. Yeah, so once you've gone through and added all those, we'll start with the walkthrough.